Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the comments of my friend from Texas. We do have some disagreements, but I want to go back to the issue of jobs. People are hurting. They're without jobs. The unemployment has been higher than the President said it would ever get if we would just simply give him about $1 trillion to give away to his friends that would make it all better. Well, it didn't. And what we've seen over and over from this administration is a complete disregard for the rule of law. And when you look at all the people who have been drawn into this country illegally, in violation of our immigration laws, even though there is no country in the world that allows the immigration that this country does in the wide open gates that we do. But we have parameters. Some of it, we've been told there may be 1 billion, 1.5 billion people who want to come to this country. If they did all at once, it would overwhelm us and there'd be no country for others to come to. So why do so many want to come here? It's because we have always had regard for the rule of law. And when there were those who would ignore the rule of law and put partisan and personal benefit above the law, eventually they had to account. Some have gotten away, but this country has done a better job of being fair across the board than any country in history. And that's why so many want to come here, because we have had more jobs, a better economy, and made more advancements than any country in history. Yet, on the issue of immigration, this president stands up and announces, we're going to ignore the law. Just as he did on marriage, there is a proper law signed into law by President Bill Clinton, enacted by Congress, upheld, and he says, we're going to ignore that because we don't like it. There goes the rule of law. When it comes to Obamacare, we've passed this law, but you know what? So many of the people that pushed this through and rammed it down the throats of America, they're asking for waivers, and they're good friends, so we're going to give them waivers so they can ignore the rule of law. How about the auto bailout? Ignored the bankruptcy law, ignored the Constitution, took away dealerships, gave them to others. This was a place where the rule of law was completely ignored. And then this president stands up and says, you know what, not only are we going to ignore the rule of law, duly passed law, but as I speak, I will create law. And I now speak into effect new work visas, work permits that existed. But just as the ancient pharaohs or the leaders of the ancient world, as I speak it, so it must be. I'm speaking into effect new work permits. I'm speaking into effect an ignoring of the laws that were duly passed. I'm speaking into effect a chance to give them jobs that Americans are hurting and trying to get. And we have an Attorney General who was not only about Fast and Furious, he was asked about Justice Kagan on the Supreme Court. Are you aware of any instances during Justice Kagan's tenure as Solicitor General of the United States in which information related to patient protection, affordable care, and or litigation related thereto was relayed or provided? He refused to answer. When did your staff begin removing Solicitor General Kagan from meetings in this matter? On what basis did you take this action? And what other matters was such action taken? Look, the rule of law required that when it turned out there were possibly thousands of abuses of the national security letter in a Republican administration, I picked up the phone, called the chief of staff of my president, and said, this is unforgivable. We need a new Attorney General. Where is my friend across the aisle who will step up and say the rule of law is too important? We have Justice Kagan, who is ignoring the law 28 U.S.C. 455 that says you must disqualify yourself in any case in which your impartiality might reasonably be questioned. You must reasonably expect that either she ignored the law, did not do her job as Solicitor General, was totally negligent, or she did her job and she should not have sat on this case. She should have disqualified. I plead for my colleagues across the aisle, step up as I did when the Attorney General was responsible for providing over an injustice, and call for the resignation. It is contemptuous of Congress. I yield back.
The gentleman's time has expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman